Hello, everyone, and welcome to Harv's World for the next episode of Baltic Sea. Another foray into our Scandinavian knowledge. And Nico's farm, of course. Man, what am I going to do about that boy? Anyway, I want to backtrack for just a little bit. I know we're on Norway now. We moved past Denmark, but I feel a little remiss in the fact that I've skipped over talking about capital cities. And so I'm going to backtrack to Denmark again just for a little bit to talk about Copenhagen, however you choose to pronounce it. I believe it's Copenhagen, if I'm honest. There's actually a famous song called Wonderful Copenhagen, Wonderful, Wonderful Copenhagen from the movie Hans Christian Andersen, starring Danny Kaye. And it really is a beautiful city. And Copenhagen Harbor is pretty spectacular. They've got some beautiful waterways. And in fact, speaking of Hans Christian Andersen, if you know anything about him, well, he was the original author for some of the most famous stories that we know. And one of the most famous stories was about the Little Mermaid, or that he wrote was The Little Mermaid, which most of us are familiar with because of Disney's version of The Little Mermaid. And Copenhagen, I'm gonna jack this up every single time I do it. Copenhagen actually has a statue of the Little Mermaid sitting in the harbor, and that statue has been banned from Facebook. Because depending on how you feel about it, it's one of those things. We can watch movies where people are being shot, killed, maimed, stabbed, whatever, but you can't show anything that even remotely looks like nudity. Well, images of the Little Mermaid in Copenhagen's harbor have been banned from social media because she's naked. Oh no. Probably because it's associated with a children's story. Scandinavia is a group of fascinating countries, if I'm honest, and I've got some very good Scandinavian viewers who are really updating me. For example, I have said that Denmark is one of the happiest places on earth. In fact, I had said they are the happiest place on earth. Well, I must have gotten hold of some old data because, come to find out, Finland has been rated the happiest place on earth for 4 years and running, and they're pretty well slated to be the happiest place on earth again coming up. So, but Denmark rates really high still. So, and Finland a lot of times is grouped in with the Scandinavian countries, although technically it's not considered a Scandinavian country, but it's in the neighborhood. So a lot of times when people think of Scandinavia, they think of Finland as well, but it's technically not part of Scandinavia. Anyway, what else is interesting? So this doesn't necessarily specifically speak to Copenhagen, but a lot of us in the world outside of that area think of Danish pastries. Very delicious, flaky, usually some kind of fruit or sweetened cream cheese, almost like a cheesecake type filling in them. Well, in Denmark, they would consider that a Viennese pastry. They don't claim it. So why we call it Danish pastry, I have no idea. I mean, maybe it was because somebody from Denmark just happened to introduce us to it. I really don't know. But the Viennese would not call a Danish pastry. They would call it a Viennese pastry. And those are the interesting little facts about these different countries, at least in my opinion, that make them intriguing. You know, it's those little tiny differences that you never quite expect, but are still hanging out there. Now, I did discover an additional interesting little fact. This is actually very interesting, at least from my perspective. All of this is from my perspective. Take it for what you will. Agree, disagree. You're welcome to. But the oldest amusement park in the world, oldest operating amusement park in the world, is on the outskirts of Copenhagen, and it originally opened, get this, it originally opened in 1583. 1583. It's called Bakken, Bakken, and that's pretty spectacular. An amusement park that's been open since 1583. I'd be very intrigued to find out what kind of amusements they were managing there in 1583. So, Nico's farm. What do we got going on? Well, I've still got to get the last of this soybean off the field. This is going to be our pig feed. It ripened in a very unusual way, and I pulled some of the soybean off. Just a little bit, not all of it. The little bit that was ripened, obviously, are ready for harvest, and now it's finally all come back, and it took a long time for this last section to get ready. But I'm going to clean up this field. This is all going to the pigs. Sold off the soybean. I'm pretty sure we sold off the soybean. It's been a while since I checked in on Nico, but yes, we sold off the soybean in our other field for a cash crop. We're up to 137,000 euros. And I do have a plan, because there is one more aspect of our pig feed that we have not addressed. And I think I have a way to maximize that particular aspect of our pig feed so that it benefits us even more than I initially expected it to. Alright, the soybeans are off. About another 12,000 liters or so. I don't remember how much came off before. Probably in the 20,000 liter range. That's not a bad harvest for a field that size, in all honesty. I just got to sneak my way through. This is such a tight fit right through here. See, I actually managed to clip that tree. Because of course I did. That's what Harv does. If I have to, I'll pull that tree out, but I'm going to try not to. I like to keep some of the natural look going. Oh, yeah, perfect. Pig feed, pig feed. What are we doing for pig feed? Well, now that we've got our soybeans taken care of, I need a cultivator. And no, I'm not going back into field 13 just at the moment. I said I have a plan. I have a plan. I've always got a plan. And I'm going to show you at least phase 1 of that plan right now. Drop my trailer. And go find my cultivator. It's got to be in this big shed somewhere. There it is. At this point, I think for the most part, we do have our equipment sorted out. Now that we've got the Vaderstadt mowers, which are going to do us much nicer on our clover, I've got a decent trailer now. I think we're okay. And we'll add equipment as needed as the farm grows, because the farm's going to grow. It's very much going to grow. Because it has to. And I told you up front, I said, you know, I'm not going to worry about Nico's loans. other than making sure I find a way to pay off the interest every day. Now look at that, our sunflowers are coming in quite nicely, very nicely indeed. But what I have been doing, I have been looking around at my options for land. And I wanted a small field. Now I know I've got field 11, but that's dedicated to clover to keep our pigs going. And I do like to stick close to home. So I was looking at this field 15 here. It's not quite 1 hectare in field size. The area is 1.29. But it's only going to cost me $77,000. So and we don't have a lot of money, but I feel like this is a solid investment. So I am going to pick up field 15. Right now it's got grass in it. That grass is not ready. Not ready to harvest, which is good because I don't want to harvest it. I want to plow it under and I'll use it as fertilizer. Assuming I can get into this field. I might need to take this tree out. I feel like it's going to really get in my way. Now I bet some of you have already guessed, why does Harv want a small field? Well, I'll tell you why. We're gonna work on our pig feed. Very much going to work on our pig feed, getting that sorted out, and the next step in that is some kind of a root crop. Now I have my options there. You know, I could do sugar beets. Ugh. I could do carrots, which isn't a bad choice, but I have opted to go with potatoes for little Nico's farm here. Yeah, these trees are going to be obnoxious, especially on a potato field. I think I might have to pull those out. In fact, I'm almost sure they'll need to be pulled out. Make a little bit of money off those. Maybe enough to pay off the interest for a day. So on a potato field, you know, if you get crazy acreage wise, well, a lot of you may know that potatoes are a pain in the neck to harvest. It's slow, oh so very slow. And yes, I'm not going to be real specific about this. I'm going to be down and dirty. It's a small field. I should be able to knock it out pretty quick. Potatoes are a pain in the neck to harvest. A real pain in the neck to harvest. And you get a metric ton of them even on a small plot. So even this 1 hectare plot here, slightly less than 1 hectare, will produce a ridiculous amount of potatoes. Now I just need enough for pig feed. It would be nice if we can produce enough to feed our pigs and sell some of them off. And I'm going to be looking into some specialized potato equipment that will help, I don't want to say not maximize our yield, but optimize our yield so that the best potatoes get sorted out for sale and the crappier potatoes get set aside for the pig feed. That's going to be my goal here. But I don't want to spend all of my time working on potatoes, which I'm sure you absolutely understand. Yeah, we're good. We are good. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. You know, these pigs need to be producing enough on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly basis, however you want to measure the time frame. But enough to keep him going so that he doesn't have to deal with going to work every day, he can just focus on his farm work and making sure to get the most out of the land that he has at his disposal. And with a little bit of luck, and I do mean luck, we're going to get him sorted out. And we're actually going to follow what is becoming a very common phenomenon in Norway, well, in Scandinavia. I think really around the world, if I'm honest. A very, very common theme. No, don't unfold. I just wanted you to drop. But we'll see how that plays out. I don't want to put too many ducks in my row before I get them all sorted out as I go tooling through the yard. Okay, so we want to get potatoes in. I want to look at my field first and see exactly how it stands. So we're here at field 15. It has been cultivated, and I just want to see what its needs are. It's got 1 layer of fertilizer. It does not need lime. It does not need plowing. It's ready to plant, guys. So that means we can start looking at our shop menu. I know I want potatoes, for better or worse. God help me. And I want a good sized potato planter. It doesn't have to be massive though. I don't want to spend. So that's a 3 meter, that's a 6 meter, but man, look at the price difference, 21 to 99,000. That's 1.5. I don't need that much. And just double checking. Yeah, I think, because this one's 40,000 at 3 meters. What's the size on that though? That could be the deciding difference. That'll hold 2,500 liters. This will hold 2,700 liters. There's no real distinct advantage to that, is there? So let's go with this initial one, 3 meters wide. It's going to take some time to plant these suckers, but I think this will do us. So we've got our potato planter headed back over to Nico's farm. And let's get into Norway just a little bit. Let's get into Norway. And I need to take a look here at the meat plant. Well, it looks like they're getting some pork chops ready for us. There's a few. Anyway, so Norway, the capital of Norway is Oslo. And yeah, we discussed Norway a little bit, but we're going to get more into it. And I know it's going to be more about farming facts in Norway today, but I did want to, like I said, make sure I hit the capitals. Ooh. So Oslo, obviously a beautiful city, as you can see. In Norway, they consider Oslo... Woo! Getting a little bit squirrely there. They consider Oslo's residents the healthiest in Norway. They walk more and have a lower BMI. God forbid a BMI is greater than 1, right? Right. That's the world we live in. Believe it or not, most of Oslo is surrounded by forest. A lot of Oslo is considered forest. And so, within, 15, 20 minute drive, you could be in the forest around Oslo. And they're actually quite proud of that little fact. So here we go. We're coming right back into the farmyard. And at this point, let's see. I just need seed. Come on, brother. There we go. I don't have any potatoes. That's another thing I should keep. Keep some potatoes segregated just for reseeding this field. At 21,000, this little planter is probably going to be our best option too. Okay, let's get into this field and see what we can do. It's going to be kind of a hassle to plant just because of its odd shape, but we'll make it work. And to fully take advantage of Nico's fancy equipment, we want to make sure we take advantage of our GPS, so let's get that fired up. And turn that bad boy, turn GPS on, turn our potato planter on, drop him down. Let's get down this field. Oh, very nice. Very nice indeed. I like the soil here. It looks really, really good. What else is there to know about Oslo anyway? At one point, Oslo was called Christiania, named after one of the kings, actually. In the 1600s, 1624 to be exact, there was a massive fire that came in and destroyed Oslo. And King Christian IV of Denmark, he was King Christian IV of Denmark and of Norway at the time, he had the city rebuilt in a different area, because the original place where Oslo is located is now called Old Town. So King Christian had the city rebuilt in a different location, and he renamed it Christiania after himself, of course, because, well, you're a monarch and you have the power to do so, so I guess why wouldn't you name it after yourself? I don't know. I'm not a monarch. I will never be a monarch. Maybe a butterfly. Harv the monarch butterfly. Yes, yeah, I see that happening sometime in the not too distant future. Not. Yeah, this is doing a nice job, actually. It shouldn't take us too terribly long to get these potatoes in the ground. Anyway, Christiania after King Christian IV. I'm pretty sure that we have mentioned before, I know I have, that Oslo is the location of the Nobel Peace Prize. That's where the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded, even though Sweden is the actual location where Nobel created his Nobel Prizes, because there are many of them these days. Last little bit of potatoes going in right now. This is it. And our aggressive weeds, our very aggressive weeds, have already started filling up this field where I had planted, which would be most of the field. Of course, because it's most of the field. Look at that. Only 67 liters of potato seeds left over. I had to go back and get about another 700 liters to finish off this field, but I got just about the right amount. So what do we need? We need herbicide and fertilizer. One application of fertilizer on those potatoes, because the grass that we plowed in, cultivated in, gave us our first application. And one more application and we are done. I will return this to the shop later. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Too many other things to do. Too many other things to do. I want to get this field taken care of, and then, as strange as it may sound, okay, maybe it doesn't sound strange, I don't know, but to me it sounds a little bit strange. I'm going to get the herbicide on. I'm going to get the fertilizer on. That's going to be both done with our little sprayer here. The Hardy Mega. It looks like we've got herbicide in it already, so I'll take care of those weeds first. This is going to be a little bit tricky because this thing is bigger. So getting through that narrow stretch could be a bit of a challenge. Anyway, I'm going to break off because one of our local friendly neighborhood farmers, has a task that I could do today. And I feel like I need to do that task because, and I'm sure you understand why the minute I say it, we don't have anything to make actual cash with today. And we're still going to have several $1,000s worth of interest to pay off. Oh, clip that tree. See, I told you it's going to get a little bit hairy through here. Just a little bit. Can we sneak it through? Come on, swing past that tree, brother. Stop spraying herbicide when you don't need it. Go this way. Am I going to have to fold up? We'll see. I just want to make sure I get everything. See, I told you those trees along the edge were going to cause a problem. Alright, I think we got it. There we go. So I'm going to finish the fertilizer on this, and then we're going to talk to the local and see exactly what he wants us to do. Yeah, so I picked up a nice fat plowing contract from one of the locals here on field 22. This is a big one too. Check that out. And if we could get our hands on a field like this, we'd have Nico sorted out in no time. Maybe in the future. We'll see. But that actually plays into what's happening in Norwegian agriculture over the last few decades. Now, Norway is a country that's not terribly conducive to growing traditional crops, grain type crops. Because of the climate, because it's so far north, because of the topography, Norway is not really conducive to growing the wheats, barleys, oats, that kind of thing. They can, but the output is significantly lower than you would expect in other places. And so when they do grow these crops, they're growing them primarily as fodder for cattle. And of course, what does that mean for Norway? Well, that means that cattle, dairy or otherwise, are a big part of their agricultural production. And that's an interesting fact when I consider my recent move to Nevada. Me personally, not part of the world tour, but in Nevada it's far too hot to grow a great deal of traditional crops, and therefore Nevada grows a lot of alfalfa, which is fodder for beef and dairy cattle. Very similar to Norway, but in a different perspective, they're too cold. So that's interesting, actually. I find that interesting that, you know, some places it's too hot to grow traditional crops, other places far too cold. So, you know, Norway's production is generally focused on producing feed for their dairy and beef cattle. Now, what's interesting about that is milk consumption over the last few decades in Norway has decreased by about 50%. They used to drink, gosh, what was that, about 170 liters of milk per year, and now they are down to, and that's per person, by the way, down to about between 85 and 90 liters per year. That just means that more and more of that milk is going into cheese production and things like that, which raises another interesting fact, is that the folks in Norway are eating a lot more meat and cheese. So they're looking for protein in other ways. Is that to say that, you know, the whole vegan, vegetarian thing is not a part of Norway's culture? No, not at all. That's a big part of it too. What's particularly interesting about Norway is that they pretty much fall in line with the rest of the world in that, everywhere that I've gone, I've been seeing that the number of farms over the last, say, 40 years is also down by roughly 50%. There are far fewer farms now than there were in the past. However, all that really means is because there's no less acreage being utilized, it just means that farms are consolidating. Smaller farms are going out of business or selling off. And a lot of what you see is the fact that younger people are not interested in going into agriculture. And this is happening all over the world. And whether it's based on technology or whatever, the average age of farmers is pretty darn high. I mean, in the mid to late 50s in most places. So, as these farms get sold off, other farmers buy them up, increase their holdings. But while there's fewer farms, the amount of acreage and amount of cattle, all of that is staying about the same. However, the other side of that is technology, knowledge, and better farming practices is also increasing the productivity. So you're getting more out of the same acreage or the same dairy herd that you would have 40 years ago. In fact, they're seeing a lot of that in the dairy industry in Norway because there are about 1.7 million fewer dairy cows in Norway now than there were 40 years ago, but there has been really no decrease in productivity. Part of that is due to the lesser demand for milk, and it also, greater reliance on imports. You get a lot more imports in countries like Norway. I guess if we're going to import all of our fruits and berries, what's adding a few hundred kilograms of cheese or whatever? you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, absolutely. Let's throw some cheese in there, without a doubt. Now, and I think this is also true in a lot of places, although I haven't looked at it specifically, but I've heard about it a lot in the States, and that is rented land is a huge part of agriculture in Norway. In fact, almost 50% of the land that's used in agriculture in Norway is rented land. So, very important. It was actually, the actual figure is 45% of the land used for agriculture is rented. So again, maybe some developer picked up a farm just to hold on to the land, and they don't want to farm it themselves, but they'll rent it out to another farmer so that they can do, whatever they want to do. Now, at one point in Norway's history, and this is the recent history from 2014 to 2017, there was a push to stimulate the economy when it comes to livestock production, and this particular push was focused on sheep. And unfortunately, this push actually did more damage to that industry than it helped, because they increased their sheep production by almost 10% from in those 3 years. And what happened is the market couldn't handle the increase. Everybody was overproducing when it comes to sheep products. It reduced the profitability, and since then, the sheep population in Norway has actually decreased by 12%. So they boosted it by 9%, and in the last 4 years, it has dropped by 12%. So they've actually lost more sheep production than they added to the mix. And the sad part of that is several farmers ended up going out of business. However, one of the advantages that Norway has that other places don't is that they have such a cool climate that it limits the spread of certain plant diseases and insects. Think about it. Hot, muggy, humid areas with a lot of standing water, that's where you get a lot of your mosquitoes. Well, you're not going to get that in Norway. Not as much anyway, because they have such a cool climate. And that also applies to the spread of plant diseases. Plant diseases aren't going to propagate as easily, move from plant to plant because of that cool climate. Another thing you have to keep in mind about Norway is that only 3% of Norway's land area is farmed land. So, in a country like that, they're only utilizing 3% of their land area. Now, keep in mind also that 39% of Norway is covered by forest. So I'm sure, and I haven't looked into it, but the timber industry is probably thriving fairly well if you have that much forest area in your nation. But yeah, only 3% of Norway's agriculture or Norway's land is being farmed or utilized for agriculture. That's pretty interesting. And you would have to do things efficiently if that's all of the land you have to keep things going. And one last little fun fact about Norwegian agriculture. In Norway, they employ just about 46,000 people in the agriculture industry. So, because of farming, 46,000 Norwegians have work. Can't complain about that. 46,000 people who are employed because of the farming industries in Norway. I'm going to see what I can do about finishing up the plowing of this field, paying for Nico's interest for the day, and then we're going to check on our farm one more time, see what we can do about taking care of field 13. That's going to be important. Got to keep those crops coming in, keep those piggies happy and growing, and eventually keep that money coming in so we can expand. We can buy out some of the locals, consolidate some farms, and turn them into Nico's farming empire. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, our plowing job is complete. In fact, I didn't even think to do this before. 8,500 euros. Outstanding. So that's going to cover all of our interest for the day. It should. I haven't checked the interest rate lately. Come on, Harv. Now I need my seeder. Pretty sure this direct drills. I'm reasonably sure it direct drills. Too many things going on around here, man. Sometimes you just don't remember. And we wanted canola. Excellent. And we probably ought to refill with a little bit of seed. Actually, what I'm thinking is I should probably throw fertilizer on there first. Yep, that's what I should definitely do. Yeah, we are getting low on seed. Okay, so we're going to shut that bad boy down. Going to come back over here and get our other Voltra. which should still have fertilizer in it. Yes, yes it does. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. This is the thing about the vultures that make them nice. Look at that turn radius. It's the little things sometimes, man. And you know, that reminds me, there was one other little factoid about agriculture in Norway that I forgot to mention. So, because of where Norway is located in the world, topographically speaking, you know, that very northern area, Norway is one of the few countries in the world that has no ability to produce any kind of a sugar crop. So, obviously, sugarcane is tropical, so you're not going to see sugarcane, but they also can't grow sugar beets up there. So, they do not have a way to produce sugar. So any sugar that you might find in Norway, that's going to have to be imported. We were talking about the importance of imports to Norway and how that affects their agricultural sector. And that very much applies to sugar. So Norway and sugar, forget about it. So I'm going to keep working on field 13 here. I'm going to get that canola planted. I'm going to get it all fertilized and herbicided and get it growing. We're just about to the end of the day here on the Baltic Sea anyway. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. As always, I very much appreciate you coming along for the ride. And until next time, take care.